Much like Jurien Timber, where is it going down and who is yelling Timber? More precisely, Jurien David Norman Timber. The guy who is getting so much praise from the likes of Arsenal, Manchester United, Liverpool, and plenty of other big sides in Europe, including the likes of Barcelona, who it looks less likely he will sign for now. He's just finished third in Eredivisie. He came through at a team in Utrecht, but not Utrecht, which was, I believe, like DSVL or something like that, which then fed him into Feyenoord, which then obviously fed him into, that's right, Ajax. And now he is at Ajax. And not only that, there are other promising signs, say, on the international stage, that he could be a long-term prospect, not only on the international stage, but also in Europe. He is one of those guys who fits the modern profile, or at least the progressive profile of a modern centre-back. So even the old-school centre-backs, including Virgil van Dijk, including the other big guys who have played at Ajax, so, you know, Yapstam, those kind of types, have been complimentary, should we say, of him. In fact, Virgil van Dijk said, I have nothing, and I'm going to put this, I have nothing but praise for him. Pretty mad for a guy with the middle name David Norman. He just finished third, obviously, not fantastic for Ajax. Ajax have sort of struggled since they've lost Erik ten Hag. And why would you not have struggled when you lost such an influential manager who took you to first place in the league with quite a close run thing in the end? 34 games in the season, 84 points from that's actually pretty impressive. But obviously he only won by those 2 points over PSV in the end. But Timber was a huge part of that. Mr. Worldwide himself, because it's going down. It's going down. If there is no chant made about that in the Premier League, I will be disappointed. If there's probably not already a chant made about that, I'm probably even more disappointed. The guy is levels. He's won the Johan Cruyff Award. This is what the award looks like. Not quite sure why. It's a little cartoonish, kind of like it. Johan Cruyff, so it means something. It's previously been won by the likes of Ryan Gravenbach, obviously Frankie de Jong, Matthias de Ligt. Do you remember Kasper Dolberg? Do you remember Memphis Depay? Do you remember Davy Klaassen? Klaassen? He's been clashing with people ever since. And it was obviously won by 19, back in 2019. Of course, no one was a winner that year, in more ways than one. But the kid is quality. And what I always find interesting about looking at just the overall prospects for a guy like this, A, fantastic on the ball. He's got really great distribution. B, he's able to play in a number of different positions. So not only was he deployed along the back line by the likes of Erik ten Hag, but he's also got a very solid position on the right-sided centre-back side. Not only that, but when you look at all these heat maps, and I will be looking at more and more of these heat maps, you can see what a strong centre-back he is and why he fits that modern idea of a centre-back. Sure, he's not huge in stature. Sure, he is not like rippling with muscles like some of the other big centre-backs that are currently dominating in the league. But people underestimated the likes of Martinez when he first came to the league. They underestimate other smaller centre-backs who are possibly more of a future profile than a current profile in the Premier League. And I think like he fits into that profile, right? And no wonder Arsenal want him. Not only do they have two fantastic centre-backs already, but because he's this adaptable type of player. And by the way, these are losses that he played in. I kind of like to look at the losses in terms of his heat map just to see what went wrong tactically, but also what the player did in those kind of positions. But what I'm saying is, like, obviously they've got Gabriel, and he's a fantastic player. They also have Saliba, fantastic player. They missed him towards the end of last season. The guys who came in to fill in the likes of Ben White and, is Holding really he did fill in. Holding was a fantastic fill-in. Like, I feel bad saying anything bad about Holding. He was a great player, but those guys weren't quite what they wanted, right? Should we put it that way? They were very decent stand-ins, but long-term stand-ins, probably not. And so Arsenal are on the hunt again, not only for someone who can play in the centre-back position, but also someone who can play at, say, central defensive midfield. Do you need a better... it was a game which... look how high that line is, and they did get caught out by Uni and Berlin a couple of times, but still, look at that in terms of where he can play. I'll go into why this is important in just a second. The same here when they actually lost in this leg to Benfica, over both legs to Benfica, but look at that for a heat map, and then look at that for an average position. They actually lost 3-2 on aggregate in this Champions League tie, but the point still stands. He is so key to what they were doing, right? And obviously, since then, they've gone on to get some wins. This is a really great heat map in terms of what you want to see from a modern centre-back. Look at that. He's absolutely dominating that side, but he's also covering other players around him, and that adaptability is something that Arsenal are looking for. Alongside that, obviously, I mean, look at that. That is actually a ridiculous heat map. How much play goes through this guy? But you can kind of see all the different positions that he is taking up here, right? Look at that. Literally 1, 2, 3, and then 4. It's pretty wild, by the way, they're going south on that. It's pretty wild to think that Mr. Worldwide himself could also be Mr. Pitchwide. The point is, he's also a great young leader. He's also someone who, within the Ajax camp, is hugely respected because of his adaptable assets, shall we say. And not only that, but he gets onto the ball, brings other people in on the ball, and probably allows you to play, not positionless football, because I think positionless football, it's not the only kind of football, and it's not this positionism versus relationism. It's something in between. I've labelled only him on what I consider to be this diagram, and I've left the labelling of which kind of shirt it is neutral. I personally would love to see him at Arsenal, but I also understand that Arsenal have 2 really strong centre-backs right now. But there are other things you can kind of get into with this, right? So, this is not how Arsenal played last season. In fact, look at that. That's more how Arsenal played last season, right? In fact, you could probably put Odegaard and probably Xhaka a little bit higher, probably Odegaard more there, Xhaka there. They were trying to create this box midfield, right? They were always trying to make that box, and that was Zinchenko wandering in, and then the 2 centre-backs shuffling over, and things went well from there. Since then, obviously, Granit Xhaka has expressed maybe an interest to leave the club. Declan Rice is one of the people they're interested in bringing in. It could change quite significantly the formation that Arsenal play in this time. And obviously, Thomas Partey and Xhaka leaving in one summer is probably not realistic. But if we're looking at the long-term prospects, especially if they bring in someone like a Kai Havertz who could play as an adaptable frontline player, you're looking for someone from the back, like a Timber, who can pick him out with a pass into the midfield. That is what he's fantastic as. And not only that, but that's not only Kai Havertz, that's also someone like Odegaard. And therefore, you're kind of not bypassing Thomas Partey completely or bypassing Declan Rice completely, but what you're allowing is that Timber could at some point move into midfield, and you might see that Zinchenko, or even maybe a profile of left-back that we've not seen at Arsenal yet, or maybe a profile of left-back that we want to see at Arsenal a little bit more, maybe bringing a Tierney in a little bit more, though he deserves to be a starter a lot more. Maybe you see them pushing on a little bit more. And maybe you see Timber being the other one who is the other midfield option, creating a box in that midfield, right? Then you've got a left-back who is left over there. These are all options that Arsenal need. These are all options that Arsenal struggled to make last season when they lacked one piece, which was a centre-back there. We all know how important centre-backs are in the league. I'll go back to the fact this guy is not tall, but he's strong. There are a couple of times we get sucked into this midfield area here, which obviously you arguably wouldn't get happen if you are more in control, which is what Ajax are not as much as Arsenal, but they obviously try and be a little bit more in control, but they aren't as in control as Arsenal were last season. And the ball goes around him, right? The ball can then get put into this area. So arguably you'd need a centre-back who could deal with that, right? I still think there's something there. But if you have Declan Rice in front of him, if you have someone who just sits and just manages the space, and you have someone who sits and goes in between the 2 centre-backs, allowing you to form a box midfield with even like 2 of your centre-backs rather than your midfielder, you've kind of got this adaptable formation which can suck teams in. And when Arsenal have their dominance, which is when they then get into these kind of positions, which really is more like a 6 up there, you really only really leave possibly even a 2, possibly even a 1 like that. Let me just move these pieces around. You end up with like a that. Timber could go wide. He's often played as a right centre-back / right back. How do you then deal with that if you're in opposition, right? What you've got is an adaptable midfield, which is not positionless football, but is so amorphous that it makes it hard to track your runners. If you've got a Kai Havertz in there, someone who's willing to overlap a Gabriel Jesus, someone who does like to come deep for the ball, suddenly you've got such a weird midfield that Timber could play a ball out to a Kai Havertz or someone like that. He could play a ball in and fizz it into the feet of a Gabriel Jesus. Moving the piece around, I don't want to move here. What I'm saying is it allows you this control of the midfield, control of those areas, and also, by the way, with everything being kind of, how am I moving this around now? Yeah, there's your Kai Havertz. Right. If you've got like a back, if you've got someone who can drop in, that's not Havertz. Arguably, that's maybe more like an Odegaard or someone like that. To form that 6, very rarely do they form this 6, but if you've got someone who can form that 6, give them a bit of an overload and be counter-attacking here, Timber's the kind of guy who can pick out a ball there. He's also the kind of guy who can, in a similar fashion to the way, by the way, that maybe a Konate for Liverpool deals with things, if you do want to push a lot of people up and you want to play this back 3, Timber is good there. Allows you to push your right back up a little bit more. Arguably, maybe Zinchenko comes a little bit deeper. But what it allows you to do is basically, especially if you're rotating your Ben Whites and maybe your Tomiyasus and people like that, it allows you to have that control on the right-hand side of defence that maybe Arsenal were looking for a little bit more, and maybe Arsenal will be looking to even more extend. They're looking at incredibly adaptable, incredibly rotational players at Arsenal right now. Kai Havertz, Declan Rice alongside Partey. It makes it difficult to judge what the shape is going to be, where the control is going to come from, where that ball is going to come from. If you know that they're always just going to try and get the ball into Odegaard and that Odegaard's either going to shoot or play the ball, or Xhaka is overlapping a Gabriel Jesus or someone like that, you can judge that kind of play. And arguably towards the end of the season, when they didn't have a replacement for Saliba, they struggled with unlocking sides in a more pragmatic fashion, should we say. Timber would be that kind of guy. Now, arguably, Manchester United are more in need of someone like this. He's worked with Erik ten Hag before. And, you know, as much as Arsenal are going to Arsenal 4.0, possibly 5.0, Manchester United are possibly just as lucrative, possibly just as able to challenge, especially considering how many people are in those positions now. But there is a pull to working under Arteta. There is a pull to living in London. There is a pull to being one of the main guys, and there is a pull to consistent Champions League football. These guys have just gotten in there, and with Saliba being injured, with maybe even Gabriel getting injured, with Thomas Partey possibly not being able to hold a position down in the side, you see Timber come into the midfield, you see another centre-back. Maybe that's Saliba, maybe that is a Gabriel, maybe that's a Timber alongside a Declan Rice as part of a double pivot. What have you got? You've suddenly got like a really adaptable midfield. You've suddenly got a really adaptable formation where Zinchenko is super adaptable. What's adaptability in Europe? What is a synonym for adaptability? A synonym for total football? A synonym for where you basically can play in any of these positions? Ajax. Arteta is not looking to make a side which is positionless. He's not looking to make a side where, you know, we don't know a repeatable, should we say, set of plays that they can go through. But Timber allows you to expand that number of plays that you can go in with, right? He can do that sitting at the centre of a midfield, arguably. He can also do that in front of another centre-back, and if that centre-back wants to go forward or play a ball, he can sit back. These are all like really desirable qualities, should we say, in the modern centre-back / right-back / centre midfield / right central midfield positions. So the point I'm making is this is great for Arsenal if they bring him in. It's also great for Manchester United if they bring him in, but I feel like at Arsenal there is a welcoming atmosphere that might go down well there. He's won the Johan Cruyff Award for a reason. He is part of these successful setups and was part of a really successful setup at Ajax, one that went close to a Champions League final and obviously won the league. He's won the league there. He brings in that mentality. That is why someone like Erik ten Hag would want him. But weirdly, he's not been as linked with someone like ten Hag more recently. So maybe he's more on the up now. Now, some people might say, hey, you know, this was rumour because in recent weeks, everything that's going on at Arsenal with centre-back, you know, maybe they want to show that they're strong at centre-back so that, you know, a new contract might not get signed, some details might not go through, and maybe, you know, maybe they want to be able to show Saliba that there is another person in there. I feel like this is coming too late. Saliba feels like much more of a formality now at Arsenal, and they need depth in that position. Look at every other team in the league that has depth in that position. They were able to challenge longer, and they didn't drop away. Liverpool dropped away at centre-back. City, arguably in the season when they lacked centre-backs, dropped away. Manchester United, when they lacked centre-back position in Varane on that side, who arguably Timber could really replace on that side, especially when you look at heat maps like this, they dropped away. Having an adaptable player like this is incredible for someone like Arsenal. It's also, by the way, is it any coincidence that the second that Arsenal begin to fall behind in any of these races, they bring in someone like a Timber, or they are rumoured to be in for someone like a Timber? No. Would he be a fantastic sign for someone in the Premier League? Is he Premier League proven? Probably not. But is he in a league that seems to adapt to this one extremely well? Yes. Is he getting the kudos from people who are amazing in these leagues already? Absolutely. So what is it that you want to see happen with Jurien Timber when he comes in? Where do you think he will play? Will he be more of a Partey type? Do you need a centre-back a little bit further up? Because if you create a box with amazing feet, you're basically just negating the need for those two centre-backs behind the two central defensive midfielders that create the box, or attacking midfielders that then go and create the box. You're negating the need for those guys, and arguably you can push one more player on to create the 2-2-6 that Mikel Arteta was looking to create towards the end of last season. Now, the reason I say 2-2-6 is because very often you'd see two people move on, and Arsenal really wanted to create space in between the lines, but, they wanted to push people into this space when they didn't have Gabriel Jesus. They wanted to have that adaptability that wasn't as predictable. That's Arsenal now. That's where they're at. Let me know what you guys think. I'll be really interested to know if you agree with my thesis on him, if you think this is something that they can do more of. He's a great ball player. I've already been through all this. I'm excited to see him in the Premier League. I think he will be a fantastic Premier League player. And I also think he offers something in more than one position, which is what makes him such a great A, backup, but B, starting player, because what can you change during a game? How often last season did we see managers win and lose based on the adaptability of those players? John Stones, Trent Alexander-Arnold. Manchester United lacked that, but so did Arsenal lack that adaptability in midfield when it came to crunch moments. Timber adds that. I look forward to hearing what you guys' theories are in the comments below. It's the beginning of a conversation. I'll be doing another video on him very soon, but I'd love to know what you guys think in the meantime. Have a good transfer window. If you've not already subscribed, hit it down there, and I'll see you guys in a little while. Much love.